Hi folks, it's me, Kelly Seeks Books, and I'm back again with another video. This time I want to talk to you about my top graphic novel picks that are just so good. Like, this has been the year of graphic novels for me. My library has so many, and so I have devoured them, and I'm here today to tell you which ones are not just good, not just great, but like are gems that must be read immediately. Let's get started. First, we have The Golden Hour by Nikki Smith. So this is one that was at the library, just happened on a whim to pick it up. It is so good. But slightly dark content that might be triggering for some people, but I think the topic and subject matter is really well done, and it's not graphic. So it is about a boy who experiences a school shooting. Obviously, he's very traumatized by that. He's in middle school or high school, and so he struggles with panic attacks and he disassociates and things like that. And so this is the exploration of him dealing with the aftermath of that, making friends, making new connections with people, and finding a love for photography, really anchoring him and creating a new, not just interest, but something that's great for his mental health. This takes place, I believe, in Kansas, and there's a lot of gorgeous art out there, but to make Kansas beautiful, that is like next level. Even like the mundane scenes are just drawn with such care and nuance and depth. It is just a really well done, well told story. Gorgeous art, gorgeous representation. You know, you have therapy represented in here. You have a mother struggling to deal with, you know, raising a child that's gone through this kind of trauma. You have friends figuring out how they can support a friend who's been through this. You have a little bit of a gay romance, which is exciting. And overall, it's a lovely, lovely story. The art is on point. The writing's on point. Just, it's so heartfelt and heart-touching. Yeah, so I would highly recommend. I'm still thinking about it. It's still just so good. So next we have Nimona by N.D. Stevenson. This I heard a lot of hubbub about however many years ago, and I just never picked it up until now, but it is really good. And it's not what I don't even know what I thought it was, but it kind of blew away all my expectations. It's one of those things that averts a lot of tropes. So it's about a person named Nimona, and she has like these powers and abilities, and like she loves the villain. So she's like, I want to be the apprentice of the villain. Let's go. Da, 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 da. And I don't want to spoil too much. And per usual, the things I love the most are the things that are spoilers, but it's a really interesting take on good versus evil, on the heroes versus villains, what it means to be a person, and like what your purpose and mission is in life versus what your reputation is. It's got a lot of really interesting themes packed into this just like fun story, and it ends in a really unexpected way. I'm a person that I don't like to try to guess where a story is going, but I've read so much and I love to write that I can normally like figure it out, but I truly didn't see it coming, and I think it's still like the perfect way to end it. So I would highly recommend checking it out. Next we have Watchmen by Alan Moore. This is a graphic novel classic, but it covers such interesting themes that I think it holds up even after all those years. It's not my favorite art style, but it's iconic, and I do think it's really interesting for what it was doing at the time, and it's like so immersive in this like alternative Earth history. The amount of detail he put into it, the amount of like meta elements, like he's got a story within a story, he's got propaganda, and for those who don't know, Watchmen, shoot, I don't remember what time it takes place in. It's been ages since I've read it. Okay, I'll admit that now. The secret's out. But when I was crafting this list, I couldn't not include it because it was really good, and it plays such a pivotal role, I think, in graphic novels and comics in general. And it's about these kind of superhero, anti-hero characters that originally were called the Watchmen, but they've kind of dispersed over time, and it tells the stories of each of the members of that group. And it's a very dark, mature look at what it means to have those kinds of powers and what responsibility do those individuals have. So it is a mature rating, so keep that in mind, and also know that like it does deal with like sexy times, sexual assaults, war, death, I think torture, the gambit, all the trigger warnings. But if you're down for that, it might be for you. Next, we have one that I've never heard of before. It's called Belonging, A German Reckons with History and Home by Nora Krug. Now, there's a lot more writing in this than I'd say traditional graphic novel, but if you're down for that, I think it's so fascinating. And also some of the art is just like real life photos and like copies of original documents, letters that were written and things like that she found from her like family archives and things like that. And it's one of the few things that I've seen, graphic novel or not, that talks about what it means to be German in modern day, having had that relatively recent history of World War II and the Holocaust and things like that. And the author's like dissecting whether the story she knows about her grandparents is true and what was their true association with the Nazi Party. What does it mean to be a German outside of Germany? And like, what do you say about it? And what does your family say or not say about it? So it's really fascinating psychology and like memoir of really like big, heavy subject matter. And I think it's so powerful and so brave for her to write this. Like, this could not have been an easy journey to just find out on your own private time, but then to reveal it and write about it for the public is just another level of courageousness, in my opinion, because nothing forced her to do this. And I'm sure that her family members had to have had some thoughts about it, but just top-notch journalism, memoir, graphic novel. Super powerful, super interesting, not something I see every day. Got two more for you. So next we have Himawari House by Harmony Becker, and I think this was the first 5-star read I had this year. It's so good, and it's one of those things where I don't think it would have been as powerful if it hadn't been a graphic novel. Of course, it's always fun to like see the art style and the art and have that interaction, but sometimes you read something and you're like, okay, like this is just, the art is just for fun. It didn't necessarily need it, or even sometimes that it's subtracted away from the story. It's like, oh, we could have gotten further in the story if we didn't have pictures. But I loved how language is depicted in this graphic novel. It's about a young woman who is returning to Japan. She like spent a bit of her childhood years in Japan, but then her family moved to America, and now she's taken a gap year to go back to Japan. And it's all of those interesting questions about identity, belonging. Like, she knows a little bit of Japanese, but she's not fluent. She all those years loved and craved Japan and Japanese culture, but at the same time she's very Americanized. There's a lot of concepts and a lot of ideas that she has that kind of rub against Japanese ideology. Then you also have these two other girls, one from Korea and one from Singapore, and they have their own like quirks when it comes to speaking in English. They have their own background and experience with being in Japan, learning Japanese, being from a different country. There's so much to this graphic novel. It's so powerful. Like, if they had just done one of the stories well, I think that would have been amazing. But like, they have all of these girl stories like intersecting, and you get to spend a little bit of time with each of them, and I just loved it. I really would love to see a second book, even though it ended perfect. Like, it stands on its own, but I would love to have more time with these characters. And it's really cool how they do it, because you have, with like the language, they'll have it to where if it'll be in like Japanese, but then like there might be like a little squiggle if someone's saying something in Japanese that the main character doesn't understand. So it's like, okay, I follow. No, I don't. And then they have like a hangul for when the Korean characters are speaking Korean. And yeah, it's just a very immersive experience. And as a person who's traveled and as a person who has not known the language or has been trying to learn a language, it just was so on point. And you could tell how much research she did to make sure that she was as accurate as possible with these characters and situations. So A++. And last, we have another kind of semi-classic, Fun Home, a family tragicomic by Alison Bechdel. And so that is the same Bechdel from the Bechdel test if you are a feminist. This one is kind of a heartbreaking read. There is humor in it, so it does soften the blow a bit, but it is another graphic memoir of Allison's family and kind of coming to terms with the different characters that make up her family, of dealing with her father, dealing with her mother, and how that's helped or shaped her in one way or another. And I actually do, like, I should reread this soon, but I just remember it being really profound. And it's amazing how with memoirs, they're talking about this really niche, like, personal experience, but by being so specific to that personal experience, it like broadens to kind of represent humanity and what we're all dealing with. So yeah, these are my top graphic novel picks. They stole my heart. I think they'll steal yours. I highly recommend them. And yeah, I'll probably be bragging about them for years to come because they're so good. Let me know if any of them appeal to you and what's your favorite graphic novel if you have any. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.